Hey everyone, Micah here with Electrek, and today we're reviewing the Exway Flex electric skateboard. It's kind of like the old Exway, but you know, flexy.
I've had the Exway Flex for about a week now, and this isn't actually the final version, but it's 99% of the way there. And Exway let me snag one to get an early peek at the innovations they've put into this board. This is basically the production board, except for a few things like the grip tape being cut a tiny bit too small on the edges, a different color of bushings, and some slight firmware updates that will be happening before it goes live for pre-order in a couple of days. But this is basically it. And guys, the board pretty much rocks. Now keep in mind, this is a budget board, which will be priced at $649, but it absolutely does not feel like a budget board. First of all, that new flexi deck is nicely crafted, has aggressive contours that feel great under your feet, and the whole thing just feels great at speed. There's actually two drive options, just like the Exway X1 Pro, where you can choose between hub motors or the Riot kit, which includes belt driving motors. They're swappable, but you do need a tool to swap them out. The battery and controller enclosures are also removable and swappable, but again, not without a tool. So when they say swappable battery, it's technically correct, but it's not as easy as just unclipping and sliding in a new battery. Still though, the ability to pack a second battery in your bag and then extend your range on a ride is pretty nice. Now speaking of range, you'll find that the realistic range of the Exway Flex is around 20 kilometers or 12 miles. That's what I'm getting while riding the board fairly hard and keeping the speed above 20 miles an hour much of the time. Exway rates the board at 32 kilometers or 20 miles of range, but that's gotta be under ideal conditions and when riding slower with a backpack full of helium or something. You should assume about 12 miles and you'll be pleasantly surprised. And that's pretty good actually. I mean, the battery's 259 watt hours, which is fairly large for a budget e-board. Boosted Stealth also gets around 12 miles of range, but it costs over twice as much, folks, so the Exway Flex is definitely bringing it in the value department. The power isn't quite at the level of Boosted, but it's still got great acceleration, and launching on this board is a ton of fun. I've never really felt like I needed more power than this. There are certainly stronger boards out there, but again, this is meant to be an affordable electric skateboard, and it offers great performance for the price. And sure, there are faster boards, but 25 miles an hour or 40-ish kilometers per hour is just fine for me. The only weird power-related issue I noticed was the braking when the battery is lower. Now, braking is great when the battery is full, and I nearly fell off the first time I did a hard braking test. But I noticed that the braking weakened as the battery neared empty. Exway's team says that this will be fixed in a firmware update though, so it's apparently not something to worry about in the long run. Now, even while keeping the price reasonable, Exway has packed this thing full of great features. There's the standby mode, which means you don't have to bend down and press the power button on your board to turn it on, you can do it all from the remote. The board is waterproof with an IP68 rating, which means that you should be able to ride in the rain, though you probably shouldn't do that because it's not very safe, but at least you know your board will be fine if it gets splashed. The board also comes with a new smart BMS that gives it better battery capacity readings while accelerating hard, and it can auto-drain the battery to optimal levels for storage when it senses the board hasn't been used for a few days. Exway also outfitted the board with its new Tryst trucks, which are CNC'd and actually look and perform great. And I was a bit worried about this when I heard about it, because it's not like Exway has a lot of experience in truck manufacturing, but they pretty much nailed it. I'm also a big fan of the Exway Flex's remote. There's nothing new about it, it's the same remote as the one that came with my X1 Pro, but it feels good in the hand and it's intuitive to use. The screen is a bit small like it's always been, but I like that it at least has a screen and you're not just relying on a few LEDs. All in all, I'd say the Exway Flex is basically 95% of the way there to being a premium board like Boosted. And at less than half the price, there's not a whole lot left that's going to make me want to pay a higher premium for something else. The Exway Flex is way ahead of the cheap entry-level boards, and that means that these basic boards are going to have some serious catching up to do, and that the premium board makers really have to step up their game to compete with what Exway is now bringing to the table.
Thanks for watching, everyone. We hope you enjoyed that review. If you did, why don't you give it a thumbs up? And don't forget to subscribe so you can check out all of Electrek's electric vehicle videos. We'll see you next time.